Hey guys, it's Graham, and what is cracking today? We are once again ruining my wife's ability to read male characters written by female authors. I get home from work yesterday, and she comes and sits down next to me in the office. She's like, "All right, got to tell you this," and she wasn't complaining or anything. She was just laughing at it. She was reading this story about these two doctors. They were like doctor students or whatever. They were in love, they had a falling out, and she goes somewhere else for a few years. And she gets married, it doesn't pan out, and so she leaves to go back to whatever town she was in the beginning. And she applies at this hospital under her married name. And the guy that she was with originally, he's become a full on super doctor, not like a doctor student. And he's running the show at the hospital. And suddenly he's got this subordinate, still student doctor who earned him all these years ago. And he has strong, manly, emotional feelings about it. So, according to the author of this book, he goes to like immediately talk to his sister and like gush openly and emotionally about it. And my wife, she said that she heard my voice in her head be like, no, that's what a chick would do. And she laughed out loud and she told me about this. Like, yeah, it's the female version of breasted boobily. It's like, oh, here's this male character who talks about how he feels. Like, no, not really. And it's a repeating phenomenon that we've watched so much stuff together, and we've read so many of the same books that she knows what my commentary is going to be just because I point stuff out that is consistent with my ethos. Imagine that. So I commented on that, and then I went down a bit of a rabbit hole on X last night, talking about other examples of this in cinema. Now, famously, last year when we watched Transformers 1, I pointed this phenomenon out, how women generally prefer peace, men generally prefer conflict in their fiction as a reflection of the psyche of the two sexes. With women, they want enemies to lovers romances that end with happily ever after. And guys want epic action where the two characters probably start out on the same side and then they go down different paths and they feel so betrayed by the other and they duke it out and like the universe burns as a result, okay? Anakin Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Optimus Prime and Megatron, Captain America and Iron Man. Like, we're going to duke it out. All right, women want everything to be all peaceful, happy, and they want to be the ones that instigate the peace. I'll come back to that in a second. They want to be the ones that put it together, whereas guys, like, they want to be so right that they will punch you in the face over it to prove that they are right. Did they get it right? No, that's not as important as, like, no, I am right, and I will assert that rightness. I was reminded of this last weekend when we were picking a family movie to watch, and it'll usually be something old from Disney, and my wife hadn't watched the Lindsay Lohan Parent Trap remake in a while, so she put it on, and my younger two kids got into it. I think my older son probably couldn't have given a rip, but we're watching it, and it starts out the same way. It's like, it's not enemies to lovers, but it's enemies to sisters and best friends type thing, as these separated identical twins realize that their parents used to be married, but now they live on opposite sides of the pond. And this beef that they had at camp not only resolves and they become sistery best friends, but then they go and hatch a plot to be the instigators of peace between their estranged parents and get them back together. And they do kind of have to go to war with this evil 26-year-old, I can't even remember the name of the actress, I just know that she's always the home wrecker in every movie that she's in. They vanquish her, they get the parents back together, everybody lives happily ever after. And we never have to see how they resolve the fact that the mom lives in London and the dad lives in San Francisco, and they each have a business that cannot be transplanted to the other city, but I digress. Well, I don't know. The mom's wedding dress business could definitely go to San Fran, but you can't just pick up a vineyard and move it to England. Anyway, I was like, there's really nothing in this movie for the boys. Like, this is a 100% girl-coded movie. Like, what would the boy version of this movie be? And that's when I realized Heavyweights. Heavyweights is the boy version of Parent Trap. It's also a 90s movie. It's also a Disney movie. The characters are mostly dudes, and they all start out friendly. They all want to go to camp and have fun at camp, and it's the fat camp, and we're just going to go, do the fat camp thing. And then the camp gets taken over by new management, and the happy, jolly fat kids not only going to go to war with Camp MVP next door, they're going to go to war with the new camp counselor, who tells them you have to be fit and healthy. And they're like, no, we are right to be fat, and we will be so right that we will destroy you for trying to make us not fat. And we'll destroy Camp MVP for trying to tell us that being not fat is cooler. We'll steal the motor from their boat and we'll put it on our go-kart. And we'll just obliterate everybody with our fatness. It is a story about boys going to war to prove to themselves and to the world that we are right in this position that we have taken, and we don't care who we have to ruin and what we have to destroy to assert that rightness. Heavyweights and Parent Trap are the boy-coded and girl-coded versions of that story. Now, I can already hear you hollering and screaming in the car at me, shaking your fist. Graham, you couldn't possibly be right because I know of an exception to this. Rah! Ignoring the fact that exceptions only fortify and prove the rule. But let's talk about this. I just saw this short pop up recently with Zach Justice. He's the guy who does the speed blind dating videos with different girls. And this girl starts talking about how, like, oh, I don't think it's a good idea. Like, I think it's right to live separately when you're in a relationship or you know, married or whatever. And he goes, I agree. And she immediately goes to oppose him. And he's like, no, I agreed with you. Why are you all of a sudden changing tactics with me? And the haters will be like, no, Graham, see, like, women are always wanting to pick fights and stuff. It's like, no, this fortifies the point. There are women who do this specifically because they are interested in peace. And if peace already exists, they will create conflict so that they can then go be the one that instigates the peace. Women prefer peace, and they want to be the ones who make the peace. They want to take the credit for the peace. They want to be the ones that established it. One of the examples that I gave yesterday, a woman writing a male character, you get Mr. Darcy from Pride and Prejudice. All right, they start out as enemies, and then he proposes to Elizabeth in the middle of the story, and she rejects him. But Graham, she didn't accept the peace. Yes, because she had nothing to do with making it. She was completely caught off guard by his marriage proposal to her. And she had other conflicts with him that were tangential to that, connected to it, but she had no role in instigating that peace. But Graham, by the end, she also had no role in instigating the peace. I disagree. Lady Catherine de Bourgh tried to tell her off. She stood her ground, stood for herself, told Lady Catherine de Bourgh to piss off for insulting her family. And she didn't make peace with Lady Catherine de Bourgh, but peace was not to be had. She stood for herself. And Mr. Darcy, who went on to then solve all of her problems for her with his handsomeness and his richness, but also solved problems for her family, went again and declared that he was wrong and accepted the terms of her peace, and she then accepted the terms of his marriage proposal. It comes again to the same thing. Women also prefer a guy that's British. Flip side of that coin, Megan Fox in Transformers. That wasn't her character name. Nobody cares what her character name was. She was 2007 prime Megan Fox. She didn't talk much. She also didn't wear much. If you go back and watch that movie, I would ask you, what was Megan Fox's reason for falling for Sam? There isn't one. He's just the main character. These things don't need to be thought through or reasoned. She's hot. He's the main character. He gets the girl. The end. Also, she works on cars. She's a mechanic. That's what you're getting. Another derivation of this concept comes from, well, what about characters, like female characters written by men who act the way that a man would? Said, okay, there can be a justification for this beyond the fact that it's written by a male author. And that's that I find that, again, generally speaking here, put the pitchforks down, female characters who take on otherwise traditionally male traits will generally do it as either a condition of their upbringing and their primary influences, or as a trauma response. I had somebody talking to me once about my character Kay from Sleepless Hollow. She's a Cheyenne woman who becomes a freelance ghost hunter. And she's a female character who acts the way that you would typically expect a male character to. She's brash, she's often abrasive, and people find her a difficult personality to be around. She also comes in clutch. She's often proven right. She likes to mess with people. I haven't gotten into writing her backstory into the novels that I have planned yet, but this is largely a trauma response. She's had some hiccups in her youth. She's had some speed bumps in her early 20s. And the way that she acts is a defense mechanism. We'll get into that in future volumes in that story. But two other really great examples of this are Holly Newcastle and Julie Shackelford from Monster Hunter International. Larry Correia has talked about how the cast for that book is the typical cast that you would find in a B-movie horror slasher flick thing. There's the hot librarian girl, there's the hot stripper girl, characters that would, die in the first or second acts just because, they committed the horror movie sin of taking their clothes off somewhere, and then they'd end up dead. Well, in Monster Hunter International, he takes that cast, but he gives all of those guys guns and makes them competent, and they go out hunting monsters, right? The black guy doesn't die. The accountant is cool. He kills a werewolf. He's turning those tropes on their heads. But specifically with Julie and Holly, Julie is like, what, a fourth or fifth generation monster hunter? Her grandfather is a freaking werewolf. Like, she's conditioned by her upbringing, by her family, to act this way, to be competent with handguns and killing monsters, and she's not afraid of any of this stuff, the way that you might traditionally expect a female character to be. And with Holly Newcastle, hers is a trauma response. She was rescued from a vampire feeding nest, where like vampires would drink enough of her blood to where like they could be sated, but it would keep her alive, and then she'd grow more blood back. And like there were others that were in this nest with her. She was rescued, she got healthy again, then she became a monster hunter. She's even had to say, like, when I die, you guys are going to have to give me a vampire death because I've got the gene in me, and I'm going to come back as a vampire if you don't. And she's fun to be around. She's cool. She's spunky and everything. She's a former stripper / nursing student. She's all of those kind of stereotypical things, but she's got an edge to her, and she can wield a gun and kill monsters and scare a mind reader and all this stuff because she's got that trauma response to her. But she's still a character that you would want to be around. She's male-coded in certain ways, but again, as a trauma response. Overall, the rule remains in place. Women prefer peace, men prefer war. If there are exceptions to this, you will find that they only reinforce it. I am undefeated in this. Anyway, I don't know the name of the book, what it was that my wife was reading. Somebody on Twitter messaged me and be like, this sounds like a book that my wife wrote. I was like, oh, crap. It's the reason why I didn't say what the title of it was. That and the fact that I forgot, because I'm a man and that is my right. Anyway, read whatever you want, watch whatever you want, but the more that you're aware of this rule, the more that you will see it rearing its head, whether it's in TVs or movies or books or TVs. What a frick. I'm going to go home and write so I can talk more goodly. You'll see this rule borne out. Anyway, drive safe. See you out there.